What is it with all these Western academics and students that are vouching for Hamas and terrorist organizations and going against Israel? How has this come about? This is a great clip of Professor Niall Ferguson, excellent historian, academic, who has got his head screwed on straight. And here he is in conversation with John Anderson talking about this. Have a watch.
There's nobody I met when I was in Jerusalem and in Tel Aviv in February. Nobody, including my left-wing Tel Aviv friends, who still believes in a, quote, two-state solution. The response I got from pretty much everybody was, after October the 7th, you're going to reward them with a state? So I think that possibility has now largely gone in the region, and most people there recognize it. Quite why governments in Australia and in Europe think that they can make a Palestinian state come into existence by making bold declarations, I don't understand.
Well, that immediately raises something that really troubles me. Like you, I absolutely believe that a lot of this is because we've forgotten the Holocaust. I mean, it's extraordinary. You've had people on the progressive side of politics who participated in burning the place down, in protesting against racism, real and perceived, Black Lives Matter and all the rest of it. And we suddenly find that many of those very same people are actually at heart anti-Semitic. They've fallen for the oldest prejudice, ugliest racist form of racism of all, it seems to me.
It's been a very shocking thing for many people. Not so surprising to those of us who were living on university premises. One could see this toxic brew coming some time ago. It is a toxic brew because it combines different strains of anti-Semitism. There's the old Marxist-Leninist Soviet hostility to Israel, which really goes back to the Cold War. Then there's the Islamist anti-Semitism, which has been imported into campuses by the various organizations, often subsidized from abroad, that produce student groups in support of Hamas. And then there's just the old nasty bigotry that originated in the 19th century, if not earlier, and is still around and seldom far from the surface, especially amongst groups that protest their progressive bona fides. And this was a very toxic brew, but for most people it was invisible until October 7th. They couldn't believe their eyes when student groups, not only at Harvard, but at Columbia and at Stanford, came out in support of Hamas, the perpetrators of these hideous, unbelievably grotesque atrocities. That was a shocker. And it was, I think, a reminder to all of us of just how insidious anti-Semitism is, that it can morph, mutate, shapeshift, and turn up, of all places, on the far left. And then you're told by people on the far left, oh no, you're the fascists, and Israel is committing genocide. This is a really strange, topsy-turvy world in which people on the far left accuse Israel of genocide, when in fact the genocidal attack came from Hamas. And what Israel has done is to try to retaliate with the maximum attention to minimizing civilian casualties. It's very hard in Gaza. Anybody who's been there knows that Hamas inhabited tunnels underneath Gaza and used the Palestinian civilians as human shields. But if you compare the Israeli operation in Gaza with any similar military undertaking, actually the striking thing is the relatively low number of civilian casualties there have been. The term genocide has a history. It emerged from the Holocaust when Raphael Lemkin coined it and persuaded the new United Nations to make it a part of our system of international law. So to start using that term as a stick with which to beat Israel after attacks like those of October the 7th last year is completely bizarre to me and ought not to stand up to any slight scrutiny. What's baffling, really baffling to me, John, is that just in the last few days, there are young people in the streets of Australian cities expressing their solidarity with the leader of Hamas. I can't think of anybody who more richly deserved to be killed than that man. And they turn out to hear him praised as a martyr and a hero of jihad. Unbelievable.
So Professor Niall Ferguson is absolutely right. He understands that everything has been completely flipped on its head. The truth has been utterly inverted to the point where people who think they're standing up for the the good guy, standing up for the victim, are actually helping the oppressor. See, the big mistake people have made, and that the genius of the mutating virus of anti-Semitism has convinced the world, is that the Palestinians are somehow this oppressed victim. They've simply concocted a situation in which they appear to be victims, but it's entirely self-inflicted in order to try and garner world sympathy in their cause to annihilate the Jewish state. Their cause to annihilate the Jewish state pre-existed Israel's re-establishment. Sorry, what I mean is their cause to annihilate Jews pre-existed Israel's re-establishment, which proves to you that this was never about anything Israel's done. Anything you lament, anything you complain about what Israel's done, the hatred existed before that. What's happening in Gaza? Guess what? Israel left Gaza in 2005, and there was no censoring of things going in and out, and blockade that you talk about, and wars going on. Israel left and say, go for it, make a success of this, and show us that a two-state solution could work. They elected in Hamas, and then yes, in 2007, Israel had to start censoring what goes in there because they were sending in rockets and terrorism into Israel. What do you expect Israel to do? So the cause and effect is the wrong way around. You talk about settlements. Settlements are the problem. There were no settlements pre-1967, and yet the PLO was created in 1964 to try to annihilate Israel. And that's what it's been all about. Security checkpoints. Well, there weren't, and you say that's humiliating and degrading to Palestinians. Ridiculous. There were no checkpoints a few decades ago. And there was terrorism. What do you think the checkpoints were put there to do? By the way, it's to allow Palestinians to come into Israel to work. And yet, you say that the checkpoints are the problem. The cause and effect are the other way around. At every single stage. And if you don't understand this, then you simply have not wrapped your head around the conflict and the root of the conflict. Before we wrap up, I want to share something important with you. The entire anti-Israel movement is built on one central accusation, that in 1948, Israel stole the land, and ever since, Palestinians have simply been resisting. But what if everything we've been told about this story is untrue? What if the real history of 1948 shows not Arabs being forced out, but Jews, while seeking peace, having to fight for their survival against a genocidal enemy that willed its destruction long before Israel's re-establishment? Have a watch of the trailer for our new, groundbreaking and essential documentary entitled What Really Happened in 1948. And if you want to see the full film, just click the link in the video description. In 1948, the world witnessed the rebirth of the Jewish state, the State of Israel. A moment celebrated as a miracle of survival and self-determination after centuries of persecution and the horrors of the Holocaust. Yet for decades, this event has been twisted into a narrative of theft and catastrophe, with the so-called Nakba portrayed as Israel's original sin, where Jews allegedly stole Arab land and displaced innocents in a premeditated act of ethnic cleansing. But what if this story is fundamentally inverted? What if the cause and effect are the other way around? Not Israel aggressively seizing territory and Arabs responding in self-defense, but Arabs, driven by deep-seated hatred, rejecting the Jews' legal and historical rights to live in their ancestral homeland and waging a genocidal war long before Israel's re-establishment. In this JTV Plus documentary, we're going to uncover the unvarnished truth about 1948, the centuries of pogroms and anti-Semitic violence that set the stage, the Arab leaders' explicit calls for extermination, and the defensive war Israel fought to secure its existence. We'll challenge the pervasive lies head-on, showing how Arab rejection of peace wasn't about creating a Palestinian state, but about denying Jews the right to live at all. From the Nazi-allied leader of the Arabs in Palestine, the Mufti al-Husseini, to the forgotten occupations by Jordan and Egypt, where no Palestinian state was even considered, this is the story of a conflict rooted not in displacement, but in whether the Jews deserve to live in their homeland. Join us as we debunk the myths with facts, confront the historical record fairly but firmly, and reveal why 1948 was not an act of aggression, but a righteous response to annihilation. This is what really happened in 1948. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.